we are, but I don't know why Instagram is not working. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, we are on. We are on Instagram. We are completely live, everybody.
The whole world is watching.
The whole world. Well, nobody yet, but hopefully soon enough. Um, so yeah, I think because nobody's here, we don't need to do any intros. But let me check our YouTube, see if anyone's on YouTube. Um, just one watching. I think that's me.
Oh, nice.
Well, we're recording this for our own use for our video bank, and there are a number of topics that I actually do want to get to because we get a ton of questions from customers that I've been reading this week, and I'd love to just um, read some of them off and then get your opinion on them, and I think we can use them for future discussions. So let me see if I can pull one up here. Yes. Okay. I opened one set, eager and excited to try them on. Immediately, I was disappointed in how rubbery soft they are in the arch, nor no torsional strength. So this person is basically disappointed because I'm guessing he's expecting a very rigid traditional orthotic. So I'd love to hear why we made our orthotics the rigidity that we did and why it's actually beneficial for you, the customer.
Yeah, and just as a example, I think what the customer is referring to is that the orthotics do have some give when it comes to the torsional component of the orthotic. But that's by design. We do not make a really, really rigid, hard plastic orthotic that's typical of a lot of kind of old school podiatrists in the US, but I'm assuming also abroad as well. And there's lots of analogies to explain why we do this, but my favorite is that of the pull up machine. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I
The
do.
pull up
Yeah.
machine is where you pull yourself up, but there's like a little platform underneath where you can select different weights to help you move up. And I think of orthotics a lot like how much weight you're adding on that assistive machine. So if you can't do a pull up, if you have flat feet, for example, your arch will not go up. And you want to start training the arch to give it more strength. You can't just say, hey, go right ahead and lift yourself with your arms because you don't have the strength to do it yet. You need to do some training. But at the same time, if you max out that machine, you give yourself tons of weight and it's too easy, you're never going to develop any muscles either. And I would argue that really, really rigid orthotics are like loading up that machine with too much weight. So that doing a pull up, for example, becomes really, really, really easy and you never develop those muscles. In the same way, if you make the orthotic too rigid, provide too much arch, you never give the muscles and ligaments in your foot a chance to kind of train, learn from the ground impact back up to create those neuro signals going from the foot to the head and ultimately develop an arch and correct your foot anatomy. I don't know if I said that super clearly, Dominic. Maybe you could kind of help me out and clean up the edges.
That's perfect. Yeah, you have the perfect analogy, and it's funny because I think I read the same comment, and I was thinking about proposing this topic for a conversation like this. And yeah, what you said is exactly right. And there's a second argument for softness. It's not only that you don't want to have max support. It's also with intense load, like you're walking slow, you don't have a lot of muscle activity, blood flow steady. If you change the intensity, go faster, use more of your muscles, the muscles swell. Well, now if you have a completely rigid insole, there's no space for swelling muscles. So to have it flexible, by the way, flexible as your foot is naturally, your muscles are able to take the space they need during the higher loads, right? And yeah, if you, I compared it, I was also thinking about an analogy, and I compared it to lower, let's say flat feet are, or hurting feet equals lower back pain. If you have lower back pain, you try to do some exercise to build strength. You don't put yourself in rigid braces or a like torso cast. You would never do that. Why do you do it with your feet? It doesn't make sense. And also because we do our before and after measurement, like after 10 weeks, we usually in our own facilities do a follow-up appointment where we can see how the muscles build, both measurements without insoles. So we really see the training effect and we can make measurable. And obviously this knowledge is transferred into all the strides.
Great, great. Yeah, I think that that's all very true. I like the idea of gaining strength on with the feet. That was one of the things that when I initially bought my orthotics, like before I started Stride, they did make my feet weaker over time, and I think that's one of the big advantages of Stride. Do you guys mind discussing sensory motor and kind of breaking that down for our audience?
Sure, I'm happy to do it. There's a couple components of this, and it gets to other terms too. Biohacking is one, mind-muscle connection is another, but they're all referring to the same kind of apparatus, which is when the muscle comes to an end, there's a ligament, and that ligament or tendon attaches to a bone. And it's the stretching at the junction of the ligament and the muscle that gives impetus for that muscle to grow, to learn. Um, so, one thing that our orthotics are especially designed to do is to make sure that the muscles are able to be activated while you walk. So when you step down, there will be support all over, but there's some softness and flexibility, which gives your muscles an opportunity to work as well, as opposed to that rigid orthotic cast that people may be more used to. When your muscles are working, it creates stretches, micro stretches all throughout the ligaments and tendons that support those muscles. And there's a special apparatus called the Golgi tendon apparatus, which releases little signals in the microvascular environment, the little blood vessels around the muscles that say, hey, we need to grow. We're experiencing stress. We need to absorb more energy and build and grow. And without that flexibility, without the right um, for lack of a better word, little bumps or ridges in the orthotic to put pressure on the muscle and to sort of demonstrate to your muscle where it needs to react, your muscle will atrophy. So the sensor and motor effect is a little bit complicated from the physiologic side, but is really just a fancy way of saying it allows your muscles to be activated when you walk, and it gives a solid architecture for your foot to grow upon in a healthy way.
I'm
Good.
proud, Zach. That was great. Really, that was what I was always wanting to explain. But well, my limits are the English language. But that nailed
Me
it.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
No, that nailed it. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect explanation. Yeah, great.
Well, Dominic, then maybe you can answer this one. This is a big one we get all the time. So people first get their orthotics and they expect it to be like walking on a cloud. They're like, you've sold me this product, it should feel amazing. Yet people feel discomfort when they first wear the orthotic. Why is that? And why is that actually maybe a good thing, as we say?
Yeah. It's the same issue again. Like people expect from orthotics different things than they would from their workout. If you do your workout, you don't feel like I'm suffering. I don't know how about you, but I'm really suffering. And the day after, I got sore muscles. But the day after, or like 2 weeks after, whatever, like after time, I feel better and better. And that's the same thing. We have a training device. We don't have a passive aligning insole that puts you in some comfy precision. That's not what we do. We give you activity, we give you impulse, we give you stress in the beginning, not in a way that it can hurt your feet. That's what I always say. If it really hurts, other than sore muscles, if it really hurts, it's wrong. We did, I don't know, we messed up somewhere. But if it's just not super comfortable in the beginning, of course, we want to change the situation. And changing the situation can only be done by getting you out of your comfort zone. And very often, the reason for your misalignments or for your pain actually is the desire for being comfortable, wearing Crocs all day, wearing soft Skechers all day. Feels good initially, but it's the root of your issues. So we need to get you off of it.
Yeah, I
Right.
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. There's like this inertia of people doing the same thing, pounding their heels against the ground, causing pain and discomfort throughout the whole body. And now we're saying you're going to have to move a different way if you want to be healthy. And it's not easy because you're just so used to kind of acting in one way. And that change takes a little bit of effort, but it pays off both in terms of short-term comfort in the matter of days to weeks, but also long-term health.
Yep. Awesome. Those were my questions from customers. Do you guys have any discussion topics, or I can find some more?
Well, you can look for some more, but I suppose while you're looking, there's a couple things that customers ask about a lot, but I'm not sure they totally understand the purpose of. And I was hoping, Dominic, you could explain a little bit two things: the metatarsal support here, or I guess this is the toe bar rather, and then also the heel cup. What's the purpose of the? Does everybody need it? Why do high or low for each?
Yeah, a heel cup has an important function that is more, frankly, about the insole itself than it is for your foot. If you don't have a heel cup, and we sometimes produce insoles without a heel cup for very fine shoes, right, where there's no space. But if you don't have it, like this stability here is not very high, because it would just be a paper thin, and then you can bend it like you want. So the heel cup is, first of all, is for the stability of the whole geometry of the insole. And then it guides you in a way. It takes your heel bone and realigns it in a way, right? During the push or during the initial contact, it gives you a little push. So it has a very important role in the initial phase of the gait. Nevertheless, like very, very high heel cups, like some people do, like you see orthotics with heel cups like this, that's not functional anymore, because the force, where is it? It's only on the bottom part, like here. You need the support and the guidance, that's fine, but to have a really high heel cup pushes you to the front. And that's where people tell you or tell me, I need to buy bigger shoes because I wear orthotics. Yeah, because the ones you have, they push you forward.
And that can cause blistering too, if it's too high in the back.
And bursitis. Is there an English word for bursitis, like the inflammation?
Bursitis.
Yes.
Yes.
But maybe you want to translate this, because bursitis is a Latin term, no?
No, it's a common medical word in English as well. But the bursa,
right.
Bursa's just kind of a small sac-like tissue that's on the back, or on the back of your heel, that carries lymphatic fluid, kind of drainage and waste in the area. And if it gets too much pressure rubbed against it, it can get inflamed, and then itis means inflammation. So bursa, itis, bursitis, you get inflammation, and that high heel cup that's causing the rubbing can cause blistering, which is on the surface and the skin, or bursitis, which is inside your foot that you can't see with your eyes, but can be incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And like now I realize again how picturesque the German language is. The word-by-word translation from German would be slime sack.
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
Lime.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, the toe bar or yeah, the forefoot area where you can also see little elevation. That is crucial for the push-off, right? Because during the starting of the third third of your gait, everything is in air already. The toes are the only contact to the ground. And with that, you initialize the next step, right? You initialize the next heel off. So if your toe off is misaligned and twisted, like this, for instance, you have to use your knee to turn the whole foot again. Whereas if you're in a toe off situation that's natural, of course, you'll take stress off the knee because you don't have to rotate in a way to have a perfect heel strike again.
Yeah, and I think the same thing you said, but put a different way, is if you imagine yourself walking in a natural way, the way the human body was intended on a grassy plain or soil or somewhere out in nature, when you're stepping down onto that final third of your gait, your toes aren't just laying flat on the ground. It's going down, compressing in, getting that extra torque and grip as you take your step off, and the tow bar kind of replicates what that would be like while you're walking on wood or concrete or any other kind of artificial surface that humans are used to but aren't necessarily the healthiest for your body. Did you find any other questions, Greg? Or
No, I didn't find any, but I do have other questions that I've heard over the years.
Sure.
So in terms of the materials that are used in our orthotics, do you mind describing what it's made of and maybe why we chose what we did?
Sure, maybe I can do that. I can start here. What you're using is a thermoplastic, well, it's a plastic, it's called a plastic, but thermoplastic means it's thermomoldable, so it molds with heat. That, of course, first, the reason is, since we're 3D printing, we're using the FDM printing that basically lays down the single layers with heat. Why we use it as well is because you have this perforated, semi-perforated surface that's breathable. So with every step you take, you get a pump, and that causes a airflow to keep your foot warm in winter and cool in summer. And then we use this vegan leather on top, right? Just because real leather, if it takes a lot of sweat or moisture, it gets hard and brittle. Is brittle a word? So
yes. Yes.
It breaks, right? Even though leather would be great because it takes a lot of moisture, it gets brittle after a while. So this vegan leather is resistant to this. And then we have this little cushion layer that's blue for some reason on this insole. Usually it's red. But this gives you a bit of a memory effect. So the way you walk, you mold your foot inside this little 2 millimeter EVA foam to get the perfect fit that we cannot maybe get out of the manufacturing process or the scanning. So it has 3 components. The stability is done by the TPU. It's pretty resistant. You have the sweat resistant vegan leather, and you have this memory foam where you can mold your foot inside.
And just for comparison to see kind of what people may be used to with rigid orthotics. So this is the arch from a rigid orthotic. I took it apart originally. It has this kind of felt layer. This provides no structural support. And then on top is a foam layer as well. But really, this is the crux, the whole point of the orthotic that they build. It's just this piece of plastic that like people may be used to in the US, is incredibly rigid, but a couple of problems with it. One, there's no breathability. So this is completely solid. So even though the top of the orthotic may have perforations, if the bottom is completely solid, there's going to be no moisture release. Your foot is going to get very hot. And if you're sweating a lot, it can lead to bacterial buildup and, not smell the nicest. The second is that when people make orthotics out of really, really hard material like this, they do not go all the way to the toe. So any sort of corrective function of the orthotic from kind of the midfoot forward is totally lost when you just have the hard shell of the arch. And then finally, because of this process where you have a piece for the arch, a piece that goes over all the way to the toe, another piece of felt underlying underneath, with gluing it all together, you just increase the chance that there's going to be wear between layers, or that one layer, the glue will fall off and the whole thing falls apart. And that's in comparison to stride orthotics, where the whole material is 3D printed as one solid piece. So there's no rubbing, there's no squeaking, and there's no differential wear throughout. I'm coming up to having to jump, so I was wondering if we could kind of close out. And Greg, is there any sort of coupon that we want to offer people who are listening in, if anyone is actually listening in?
I think we have 2 people actually.
Okay. All right.
According to Instagram. Yeah,
Okay.
so please go to Stride Soles, purchase with the discount code Hawk Hill. That would be our 20% off coupon just for you guys. And yeah, we're excited. Please send us any questions you have via email or join the call next week, and we'll be happy to take anyone's questions. We are also excited to announce that we have our Android app, which has been in production for the last maybe year. It's coming out tomorrow, fingers crossed, but that's a huge release for us. Really the first Android app on the market for us and for anybody in this space. So we're glad to be at the forefront of technology here.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome.
both so much.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
good one. Bye.
You.
Bye bye.